I look forward. Thank you.
Thanks. And Bjorn?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Björn Alftan. I work for Grid Arundel, which is a centre collaborating with UNEP. I was actually forwarded this invitation from one of my colleagues. Grid Arundel itself has worked quite a lot on plastics. We do quite a lot of work with Norwegian government. And I think we've worked with you, Karen, as well. And from personal interest, a few of us are looking at just how recycling is happening. Maybe we're thinking about a project about myths about recycling and what's true and what isn't, what really happens, what doesn't. So I'm on this call just to kind of learn a bit more and give feedback to my colleagues. So looking forward to the call. Thank you.
Thanks. So Anthony and me discussed earlier. I will share my screen first and give a bit of background. I just wonder, did you see Bjorn and Anna? Did you see the recorded tech talk on YouTube?
No, I didn't.
No.
Oh, okay. So then Anthony I will share my screen first to give a bit of background about labels, and then after that Anthony can explain a bit more about their verification methods.
I can do a 45-minute presentation in 45 seconds. How does that sound?
Yeah, good. Because our tech talk last week was about an hour or 90 minutes. Okay, if you can do that. So I'll just share my screen. Wait, I'll just find this file. Yeah, so I have two files. So I'll share my screen. So in 2018, share. Okay. Oh, there's somebody wanting to join, Anthony.
If you can just admit them. I think you're the host now, so if you'd admit them.
Yeah. I think it's, yeah. Okay, so in 2018 in Indonesia, we started looking at recycling and recyclability for a report we made. So in an average supermarket, we looked at all the shelves with all the types of personal hygiene, household hygiene materials, and food and beverage packaging. It was really a huge job. So one moment, I'll show this other file. Oh, it does. Yeah. So we looked literally at all products in a supermarket, and we looked at the messaging on the packaging for recycling instructions, and we looked at the material, and we wrote a report about it. But basically the messaging is totally confusing. One moment, where is it? This. So this is your average messaging on packaging, and then so it's two parts. There's a material identification code, and then there's an instruction like this hand in basket man, which was found on many. But we found that it's hardly readable. We measured it, it was in millimeters, and often I couldn't read it. We need a magnifying glass. And besides that, when it was packaging with various materials, a mixed packaging, only one identification code, for example, this was mentioned. And then in last year, we started collecting pictures from many other countries via our network at International Waste Platform. So we got pictures from packaging from 21 countries in Africa, Asia, Europe, and North America, and Australia and New Zealand. And then we found the same, none of the recycling information for consumers is adequate. And actually, this symbol found in Indonesia, it's the European green dot, and this one. And it has zero meaning in Indonesia because Indonesia is not included in the European Waste and Packaging Waste Directive. And we found this same symbol in, oh, somebody joining. We found this symbol also in Cameroon, Cambodia, I think Nigeria. We found it in many countries. So those were products which were produced in Europe and shipped to these other markets. And okay, so we started, so we published this report in 2018. And then after that, I met Anthony, because basically what you see on these labels, anybody can print anything. We don't know if it's true. And we don't know whether any of this information reflects the recyclability, because the recyclability depends also not only on the material composition or the material itself, the size, and it also depends on the local situation of collection systems and available recycle technology factories. So, for example, in Indonesia, I'm actually yesterday was talking a lot with a group in Aceh, because we gave them teacher training there and talk with the local government. And then we talk with the recycling sector, because when you educate people also on information on packaging, and you also need to try to increase the collection system and help that local community to get their recyclables out. But the distances are too long. So, for example, even within one country, if you are in Jakarta, your recyclables can go to Tangerang. It's half an hour drive to recycling factors. But if you're in Aceh or on Timor or Maluku or wherever, that same packaging has no recyclability properties, simply because of the distances and the lack of recycling factories nearby. So it's just not cost effective. It's impossible to get stuff from Aceh to Java to be recycled. And this is the case across the globe, where packaging is released in places where there is no recycling technology. So Anthony then can explain that his tool also is linked to geographic situation. So I'll stop share my screen. And yeah, so maybe can you explain in short, Anthony, about the tool?
Happy to. Nina, do you want to make me the host, and I'll try
Oh,
and
yeah.
do it in 45 seconds. See how we go. I'm just going to. Okay, so with what Nina has mentioned, there's two parts of confusion. We understand the supply chain. There's the people who are designing packaging, whether it's recyclable in a market they're selling it to, and there's also the consumers who are confused about which bin it goes in. So I'm just going to show you a couple of things. I'm now the host. So let's see how I go here. I'll show you one slide for starters. This slide here. So PREP is a piece of software that simulates what happens to a piece of packaging in a particular marketplace, and it can be adapted for each marketplace. Now, the collection system might be a bin or a crate, but it also might be bags. It might be sort of a drop-off point, but there's some point of collection of packaging. It's then transported and it goes to a sorting facility, which may be automated or it could be manual. But importantly, it then goes somewhere else. So plastic trays might go to a plastic reprocessor, glass bottles might go to the glass beneficiation, you've got metals, you've got paper mills involved, and there needs to be a market at the end of the day. So that's what PREP does, and there's a few more slides to cover, but I'll just quickly open up an example of how the PREP works. So you can see this example here. It's a meat tray that's going to be sold on a particular market, and it's made up of a plastic tray. Well, not a tub, I'll call it a tray. And then what we'll do, it's got a film on top. We'll then go through and look at this design and say, the tray is made from PET, and you can pick any materials here. It's got all the plastics, covers all materials. And then you put the weight in and the dimensions, because if it is being automated sorted, you need to understand where it's going to get through the screens and so on. And then down here, we're going to put the materials in as secondary materials. So this has a liner that's made of LDPE that is laminated. So the different bonding types will determine recyclability. Is it push fit? Is it shrink fit? Is it laminated? Is it glued? All of those will determine whether a recycler can actually pull it apart at the end or not. So in this example, we're saying it's laminated. We've also put the specs in there for the film, and we get 2 reports. So we've got 2 nations here, Australia and New Zealand in this example. Not recyclable, but down here the report says the tray is not recycled because polymers will not separate. Okay, so there's an issue there with polymers not being able to separate. So here's the on-pack symbols for the consumer to say that neither of those are recyclable. But as a designer, if you go back and say, well, I can make a change here and I can remove this liner and say that there is no secondary materials on this tray, then when you get the report, you've now got a different result. So as a designer now, you're now putting a packaging on the marketplace that is a recyclable tray for that particular market, and the film may still not be recycled because there's no collection system. So there's my quick summary of what the prep is as a software and what the results are with the on-pack label. And the last slide here I'll show you in the prep is with all your projects, this shows you if you're trying to get all your packaging recyclable, this tells you how you're going on that path towards recyclability. And then down here, it looks at categories. So how are you going with beverages? How are you going with cosmetics? So your company can then track things and start putting in design changes to suit your particular circumstances for the market you're selling into. So there's lots of changes you can make to the settings. So I could go on for a long time, but that just gives you a quick snapshot of what the prep system is in terms of a software and the labeling system that comes from this software that is currently used in Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore. And we've also got the prep in place in the UK market. So there you go. It was more than 45 seconds. I'm sorry about that, but hopefully that gives you a bit of a sense of what it is we've got there. Another point before Nina comes back on, in the YouTube 45-minute session that Nina and I went through with the tech talk, I also covered a few slides in terms of across the world, the different standards that exist for recyclability. So groups such as the Association of Plastic Recyclers in the US, Plastic Recyclers Europe, in Europe, you've got Recoup in the UK, you've got some work being done in South Africa. There's a slide there that encapsulates my quick summary of all the things that are happening, such as Italy, where they've got the Adicholka method for the paper recycling test methods. There's quite a few standards and guidelines on that recyclability assessment approach. And there's also a slide in the covering when it comes to the on-pack label with the UK, the first with the OPRL in 2009. Then you had the US in how to recycle in 2012. The French came on in 2013 with the Tree Man. 2015 was, French was 2015, I think South Africa was 2013. French in 2015 with the Australasian recycling label. And so they're the main ones that have come on the market so far in terms of the on-pack labeling, which is consistent for that particular market. So there you go. That's my quick summary.
Can you hear me, Anthony?
I can. Can you hear me now?
Oh, good. Yeah, good. No, because I had this message on my screen that my sound was off. I don't know. Anyway, thanks.
Okay.
For explaining.
Welcome back.
Yeah. It said my audio was off. I don't know.
Okay.
In any case, so Karen, you've been working on the Nordic report, which also includes standardization. So is it possible to explain a bit about what you've been doing?
Yes, thanks for that. I guess I had a few questions there, but where I see this fitting in with some of the global stuff is firstly with the labeling is important, but trying to get towards some sustainability criteria and then standards at a more detailed level. So with the Nordic report, we looked at the design of a new global agreement. And in looking at what a global agreement can do, it's quite difficult, and it's not the same as what you can do at a national level. So what we were hoping is that these sustainability criteria at the international level would then there'd be an obligation to bring them down to the national level into standards that could then be used in economic instruments. So I think, Anthony, last time we spoke, you mentioned potentially developing this for EPR type schemes and modulated fees. So this really, I see this tool as a great way of translating all the theory we put in the report on how standards in the broad term could be used from a global agreement down to the national level, firstly to look at products that can be taken off the market because they're not recyclable, and then those that will either need some sort of an EPR scheme, so a contribution to a fund, or a complete take-back scheme where the producer is totally responsible for the collection and recycling or exporting, whatever they're going to do with it. So I really see this as a platform for enabling that whole process. But I guess I was keen to understand how it's being used in the countries. So, you know, I guess a company comes on, has a look at their products and goes, okay, well, I'm not meeting it, but then what? So who gets this report? Do government officials see it at all? Does it go beyond just a company saying, okay, well, I've got a recycling label that works on my product now? So how do you, if you could just explain a bit more about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure, Karen. I appreciate that feedback. Well, there's three different stories here. So when it comes to Australia and New Zealand, that's where it started. We've got APCO, the Australian Packaging Covenant Organisation, that is the host of the program, and so their members, the member companies, they have access to the two programs. There's the PrEP software and also the on-pack label. Now, we've had in the last 3 years about 500 companies or 540 companies voluntarily sign up as members of APCO to use the program, and that includes about 58 of the 65 largest companies that sell consumer products in Australia. So it's been a really good uptake. But also what we've done in Australia was we've actually linked the PrEP to the label. So in terms of the on-pack label, you need to use the PrEP, and we've assessed about 60,000 items of packaging through the PrEP in the last 3 years. Now, the UK is a little bit different because the UK has already been around with the labelling scheme since 2009, and there's a separate, more streamlined assessment program for recyclability called the Matrix, and there's also a labelling tool. And so it's not a necessity to use PrEP for the on-pack label in the UK. So what the PrEP's being used for in the UK is often when you get to a problem where you think, I'm really not too sure, is this recyclable or not? Some things are more obvious. A cardboard box for a breakfast cereal, everyone knows it's recyclable. Aluminium can, everyone knows it's recyclable for that market, say. But when you start getting the laminates, that's when they're starting to use that PrEP more as a technical calculator rather than a sort of a full-bodied thing. Now, a key point, though, I want to make is that in terms of your point about governance, Karen, is we've set up a committee in Australia and New Zealand called the Technical Advisory Committee, or the TAC. And also now the UK has a similar committee that meets to look at the settings within the PrEP for that particular market. So if things change, like for instance, in Australia, we're looking at export bans, and that might change because the markets may not be there for certain polymers, and therefore they may become not recyclable. But that technical governance is a very important part of this, because that builds the trust. So rather than saying, I've got a piece of software that's a black box, I'm just going to let a couple of people in. Andrew's here.
Oh, good.
Okay. Just that governance side, it's very important to build the faith in the brands that are using the tool, because they understand that it's not just a black box, it's actually being used or governed by a committee that have expertise in the supply chain, from collection through sorters, through packaging designers, governments, retailers, and technical professionals that are involved in the settings. And so that governance part's important, from first of all, the brand owners who are using the tool, but then subsequently the consumer who is seeing the on-pack label that's come from the validation in the tool. So there's really that that whole connection there, which is about building trust. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
And hi, Peter and Marta. I'm not too sure if I met you, but thanks for joining us. And also, nice to meet you, iPhone. Imagine christening your child iPhone. I think that's a bit cruel.
Yeah, I don't know who is iPhone, but in any case, maybe Jane likes to speak about, because before we've been discussing the governance, and the system is voluntary, so companies can put their specs of a packaging in your system on a voluntary basis, so they could, in theory, change.
Well, that's true. That's true about rubbish in, rubbish out for any evaluation tool. But the thing is, there's also an audit program that's done to check the validity of the compact claims, and that's being done by APCO, and also there's a group in the UK doing it there. So that's another element, that's another plank of the governance program to ensure accuracy of the on-pack label.
Yeah, but with Jane we discussed the involvement of NGOs regarding governance. I don't know, Jane, are you there?
Hi, Nina, and hi, Anthony, and all. I'm here in Bali, yes. Sorry, I'm not turning on my video because I didn't prepare for that, but can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, Anthony has built such a brilliant program that he explained to me there is also a portal for which could be used, for instance, by civil society in a monitoring capacity. And of course, that's very ideal because it could avoid a lot of problems, and it could also create a system so that there is an independent monitoring by civil society. Otherwise, we can see, for instance, the situation that's going on in America where Greenpeace is suing a company, I think it's Walmart, for claims made on their packaging label, which I think is a how to recycle label. And I think that problems like that could be avoided if civil society has the ability to voice concerns or make concerns, cite concerns through an independent portal.
Thanks.
Hello. Can everybody hear me? I thought I'd say hello.
Yeah, hi, Andrew.
Andrew,
Yeah,
hi.
please introduce yourself to the others who don't know you yet. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nina, for emailing, for giving me a hi, because I smashed my phone 3 days ago with all of my contacts and appointments in it.
Oh my.
Which is the pain of this new world. We have all of our lives tied up in these devices. So I apologize for being late. Anthony and I both know each other. We've talked at length about this subject over the last year. I'm running a think tank in the west of France, and I'm a member of the Basel Convention Partnership on Plastic Waste. I'm a member of the Prevent Waste Alliance of the European Plastic Pact, and I'm working with a number of colleagues to develop this topic with a different approach. Whereas Anthony and I agree on the majority of the points, I'm taking a slightly different tack to him on the development of the recyclability question. But in essence, we're all working on the same problem, because we all see this as a primary driver, I guess, to what should be a solution to this problem.
Thanks. Yeah. Do you want to explain a bit more about your concept?
Sure, with pleasure. The idea of test score is that the question of recyclability is one which is mysterious to nearly everybody, because it contains the idea that that a piece of plastic packaging should be brought back into use. And the process by which that is done is not at all clear, because it varies vastly from region to region, depending on the capabilities which exist in that region to both collect, process, and then reanimate the material. Because, for example, the processes available to recycle material outside Amsterdam might be different to the processes in Accra in Ghana, or in America, in Minnesota, or in Canberra, or in the islands of Indonesia. They're completely different so the idea to put one symbol on a package, talking about a hypothetical recyclability, doesn't, to me, make sense. It needs to be tied to the capability. So test score seeks to first analyse with a laboratory what is the contents of a package and produce a numerical score such that that number can be applied using an application on a telephone, so a buyer can get accurate and independently verifiable information by scanning the barcode to determine if a particular package is recyclable in their area. This has been operated successfully as a technology widely now throughout Europe, throughout America. And I think it's more and more interesting to consumers that they then start to get information about what they're buying and make decisions for themselves on things like contents of packages, such as nutrition and so forth. But now I propose that they also get the chance to make decisions on recyclability, so they themselves can participate in the process to pressure producers to become more responsible in the design of packages by refusing to buy products where the packages are just not at all recyclable. This gives EPR a possibility, because it will expose producers to impact their market share if they produce packages which are clearly and absolutely unrecyclable in a particular area, such that, for example, a PET bottle, which is easily recyclable in Germany and Europe, is not at all recyclable in Africa. So that should mean that the producer should participate by funding recycling facilities in that region so that their product can be recycled. Or else governments can use this information that we generate on recyclability to impose what they're trying to do, which is a plastic tax. But they can do it with information which can be distinguish good actors that produce recyclable packages from bad actors who don't produce. In brief, that's what we're doing. It's called Test Score, and we're launching a group, inviting people to join us to mount a bid for a research project under Horizon 21 to examine the feasibilities and the application in a large European-wide study. So, and all are invited to join us if they feel they have a contribution to make.
Thanks. I see.
Your audio is breaking up a bit, Nina. Maybe that's just me.
That's the problem. Can you hear me now?
Now we can.
Yes.
but before it was correctly.
Yeah, Leva, you raised your hand. Do you like to unmute yourself?
And also,
Yeah.
Karen,
Good morning. Good morning. Do you hear me? My name is Eva Ruchevska and I'm working for a foundation in Norway, Grid Arendal. I have a question to Anthony about his PrEP platform. I think that this is a very great tool, and of course, in going through this tool in 5 seconds or 10 seconds, it was not enough. So I'm actually looking forward to explore this tool myself and see what are the possibilities. But the question is as follow. So it looks like a tool for recyclers, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So that no, it's not. So that's something I missed out. But basically, I would like to understand. Here we have a need to propose better designed products which are made for recycling process, for prolonging the plastic lifetime. So my question was, how do you secure the messaging part from recycling, from those falsely put labels on the products, towards the producers who need to entirely change the design for the market? So what is the mechanism to secure that those designs will be changed? I mean, you can see the products are not recyclable and they will stay not recyclable for many years to come, most probably. And multi-layer packaging is a very common failure in the market. So how do we secure that change in upper in the value chain? I see that Andrew is proposing more to use consumers as a vehicle. Through consumers and their kind of pressure to producers, they can alter the design. But how is the mechanism in the PrEP project? This is how I understood your platform. Thank you very much.
well, lovely to meet you, Eva, and thanks for your question. The PrEP tool is used at the design stage of packaging by those who are putting the packaging on the marketplace. And so that's the first point. The settings are reflection of what happens. So Andrew mentioned the lab program. As you said, we've got a different approach. In the PrEP, it's based on a simulation of what happens to packaging from curbside through the truck, through the sorting facility and downstream. And if you are going to simulate something, you therefore need to have proxy tests. Whereas Andrew spoke about a lab test to look at the validation of that, which I totally respect. This is a different approach, which is more of a streamlined approach based on proxy tests. Therefore, in Australia, as an other example, there's the federal governments and the state governments have agreed to the 2025 national packaging targets, which go beyond plastics, which are covered by the Plastics Pact, but it includes all packaging, the fibrous, the glass, and the metals as well. Now, that's a driver. So you asked about drivers. The PrEP and the on-pack labelling scheme is being used to cover towards those targets. So one of the targets is to have all packaging recyclable, reusable, and compostable. Now, as I've explained, the PrEP only covers the recyclable part. The reusable part is still an important part, as is compostable, but there's separate assessment frameworks. The next target is that 70% of plastic packaging will be recovered. So now the on-pack label there is there to help on that particular target, to encourage more consumers to recycle plastic packaging, but that's being done in conjunction with container deposit schemes. So it's not a single thing, it's not a silver bullet, it's still being complemented by other programs. And then the next target is looking at recycled content. So recycled content is an important thing, obviously we all know, as the pull that we need to pull the materials back out of the recycling industry, back into new products, and encouraging recycled content is the other one. So you can, that's a quick summary to your question. Hopefully I've answered it to some point, but that covers I suppose at the start of the design stage, that's what the prep is there for, and it should reflect the reality of what the recyclers will receive in that particular market.
Thank you very much. Lovely. I'm looking forward to explore the tool myself, if that is possible.
Yeah, Eva, I've put a link to prep in the chat box a bit. It's a bit to the top of the chat box, and you can also connect to Anthony direct, and he has a very clear presentation running you through the tool.
Thank you very much. Lovely. Looking forward.
I'm wondering, Nina, that the YouTube clip that you recorded for the Tech Talk one, maybe if you include that in the comment section.
Yeah, I will.
And then people can have that. That's like an overview. It's got a few slides to demonstrate, and then also a more detailed demonstration. But anyway, I'm happy to keep anybody who wants to know more.
Yeah, I will. And another thing is what we had on the agenda, and Karen maybe knows more about it. So when we start, wait, I'll put this in the chat box. So we started discussing these labels since a couple of years, and I joined a meeting maybe a month ago or 6 weeks ago from the what is it, the Geneva Environmental Network, and they were also talking about standards, and there was another group of speakers in that meeting, and we have we are international waste platform, so we have 31 countries, I think, in our network. I'll put the link also. So we are all committed to advance this transparency and clear labels, and companies using this tool. One moment, I'll put the link to International Waste Platform. Then Karen has been working on the Nordic report, and so there are so many different stakeholder stakeholder sectors and stakeholders working on this harmonization. So, but there doesn't seem to be an overarching platform where everybody who's interested in this topic to advance this is joining. So maybe we can set up a group. After this talk, we will publish the recording, and if everybody agrees. And hi, Sonigito. And then, hi, hi. Yeah, Sonigito also joins us from Nigeria. So he's also part of International Waste Platform. And in Nigeria, they have the same issues regarding recyclability and the labels. But so maybe we can set up an email group with the people who are now joining and who are interested, because there is no other place where everybody can join. We know there's a... sorry, my sound is really bad today. But in any case, so if you're interested to continue these discussions, maybe you can send me an email back so we can form a group for regular discussions on this topic. I see some new people joining. Do you like to introduce yourself?
Just also, Karen's had her hand up for a while, Nina.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Karen.
Thank you. Well, it's my questions kind of evolved again since all the discussions, but just to go to what you were saying, Nina, about some of the discussions at the international level and after the Geneva plastic. So what we put into the Nordic report was almost a hierarchy of language, and I think what we're talking about here is, when we talk about standards, people get nervous because they see it as input standards. So you're going to start being prescriptive of the types of materials you can use and the types of processes you can use. Whereas at the higher level, that you can do at a national level if that's what a country wants to do. You need a standards body to set those standards. But at the international level, we were talking more about the sustainability criteria, and one of them is this recyclability. So what I'm trying to get to the point where we use the language correctly as well. So we're talking about performance outcomes of a product. So environmental performance in a way, which I see more as sustainability criteria as opposed to input standards, which dictate to that level. So that's just a little bit of background about, where we're trying to get the language correct. And I'm happy for anyone to comment on that differentiation. But I guess I did have a question on sort of any co-regulatory frameworks that you might have for this. So are you seeing industry working with government on this in the reporting on some of the level of recyclability of their products and the types of resins that they're using? Is there something that we can use this tool for in a legislative way? So a lot of countries have chemicals inventories where legislation says they have to report on the chemicals being used. Is this a tool that we could use in such a way to start getting the right information around what we've got and how we're using it and how it's flowing through markets?
Yeah, just to respond to that one, Karen, is I showed you the pie chart before in the quick demonstration, which at an organization level. But what we're building now is another dashboard that APCO will have, and that'll be an aggregation of all the users, those 500 companies, and I'll put it all into one pie chart. So we'll say and it's not all companies, obviously, it's not all products, but at least it gives a bit of a starting point. And then when you download that as a pie chart, you'll be able to see on the market at the moment, 70% are recyclable and 30% are not, or 10% are maybe. It's that sort of an aggregation that you can do once the data's in the database. That's to say, with the data database, you can strip it in any way you wish. Whether that feeds then through to a government to track the progress around the 2025 target, that's one use for it. But it also could be looking at the capacity of the recycling industry. Because, for instance, if the information shows that you're putting so much polypropylene on the market, but there's not a infrastructure in place to capture that polypropylene, then that's a really important feedback, not just to the packaging designer to say don't use polypropylene, but it might be to incentivize the recycling industry to put in place not just collection, but reprocessing technologies to be able to beneficiate polypropylene and then find new markets for it. Because polypropylene, the price being paid for polypropylene is rising, not falling. So in the past, it would have been a problem, but this data will show maybe where the information, where the main packaging on the marketplace data, which helps to design the recycling system for the market.
Yeah, and Karen, regarding the language, so in December 2020, we wrote an open letter from our part, from International Waste Platform, I think it was signed by 21 members, and also Anthony and Jane, who's our advisor on material innovation. So we actually asked this to be put on the agenda of the UN and to make it mandatory, because you can compare this issue of plastic leakage and material use related to climate change and sustainability and sustainable production, but you can look at it as a hazard for public health, the leakage of materials and the unrecyclability. Sorry. Sorry. Down. Yeah, I'm breaking up. I mean, we can be very clear about it. It has devastated our planet, and it's impacting biodiversity, coral reefs, our ocean, our lives. And you can compare it to the tobacco industry or the pharmaceutical industry. this has to become mandatory.
Nina, I
Producers.
think that we've also got, just a reminder, we've got Andrew with he's had his hand up for a while as well. Just a note.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just responding to Karen about the, the language we use. But so our opinion, who signed this letter to Mr. Guterres at UN, was please put this high on the agenda, and we requested this to be mandatory, because producers shouldn't be allowed to release packaging on the market which cannot be recycled. That was our, point of view. Okay, and Andrew, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Nina, and thank you again, Anthony. Well, certainly, I'm pleased to see some of my colleagues, in fact, on the call. So shout out, good morning, Eva. For everyone's information, I've been working with Eva from Norway on the test score for the last few months. And there is a couple of issues that have been raised in the preceding discussion. And also, I like to acknowledge and shout out the progress that Anthony's made on the PrEP score. The basic premise behind it is obviously has got the best intentions and is creating a discussion which is the absolute right thing to do. We have to build this solution up in any form, in any way, everywhere, for with as much energy as possible, it seems to me, because the discussions that are going on around the world, not to put too fine a point on it, seem to me to be just muddying the waters. There are untold number of organisations and people working on this problem, but the conversations, the discussion, the language, as was discussed by the previous speaker, is, to my ears anyway, nothing more than obfuscation, because the situation is very, very clear. We've got too much plastic being produced, and it's even increasing. If we look at the total at the moment, 380 odd million tonnes a year being produced, with no semblance, no understanding of what happens after it's been used and performed its function. We have to band together everybody who are concerned about this particular problem with every and any method possible to be able to draw attention to the necessity to support the solution, because it seems to me that the plastic industry, packaging industry in general, which is worth more than $1 trillion US annually, which is an absurd amount of money, has for so many years believed that it's their right to produce what they want and take the profit from it and leave it to society to clean up what comes afterwards. And society has struggled with that job for the last 70 years. In whatever guise we seem to be able to produce. And the solution seems to have to perform to a business model. And it's clear from the impact of the COVID pandemic, which set upon us in March last year and immediately sent the oil price tumbling into negative territory. And Anthony and I have spoken about this at some length, but it still bugs me that you can possibly have a situation where a barrel of oil is worth less than an empty barrel. Now, if that happened once, which it absolutely did, then it means it can also happen again. Now, this means if we think it through logically, that the the marketplace for plastic is a very volatile place. It's going to become more and more problematic as we go into the next decade, as electric cars take over from fuel cars or thermal cars. It will drive oil producers to find new homes for their oil, which means to me that virgin plastic prices will, for the foreseeable future, be very volatile. That means, by extension, that the recycling industry, such that it is at the moment, whether you think it's surviving or not, I happen to think that it's completely dead, is not an investable proposition on its own with a business case. So it means that nobody, in my mind, that is in command of their faculties and simple mathematics will invest in the recycling industry, because firstly, the demand for their product is not at all clear, because that is particularly what has been happening, and certainly I've some experience of that. The price that can be commanded for recycled plastic is highly volatile, moving from being profitable to completely unprofitable at the blink of an eye from external forces. It means that if there is a role for government to play, it must surely to be finding mechanisms to keep the recycling industry such that it is in business and expanding. And the only way to do that is to stabilise and increase the price of virgin plastic.
Andrew,
go on.
Yeah,
Yes?
sorry, we're almost at the end of our meeting.
I'll stop there.
Yes, sorry to interrupt you. Is there anybody else who has something to share or a question? If not, I will send another email to all participants. And
Nina, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
You know, it's Hayley Brett here.
Yeah,
I was just interested in, look, you know, it's a pleasure to meet you all and be on this call. So, look, one of the things that is, I guess, a reasonable concern is the confidence of the consumer in a recycle.
Oh, I can't hear Brett.
It sounds like it was the confidence of the consumer in a recycling label. I think he was.
Oh, I think your sound is off, Brett.
I think he might have lost connection a bit.
How's that? Is that better?
Yep.
Yeah, better.
Yeah, just in terms of the confidence of the consumer, I mean, they've got more confidence in the virgin product because they know where it is. In terms of a recycled mixed product at 70% or 100%, the traceability and the accountability of that is just so lacking. And look, in Australia at the moment, you know, there's some major issues surrounding the importation of, you know, an ocean waste plastic bottle. And a number of the markets in Australia, in particular in the healthcare sector, is becoming, you know, each week there's a new product coming on the market with an ocean waste plastic product at you know, 100%. So I think, you know, that maybe that's got to be taken into account too, is that link to packaging, to the recyclability, but also the accountability of a recycled material that's used in packaging.
I agree with you, Brad. It's that traceability is a key thing in terms of recycled content. APCO is doing some work there to look at the supply chain. There's also work being done in the UK. It's a massive job because you can't, unless doing, even with lab tests, you can't work out to validate whether something's come from recycled content as a polymer versus virgin. So it is a very difficult thing, but really good input.
Yeah, and just quickly, is APCO, you know, doing anything in that space in Australia in terms of looking at, you know, products that are coming in that aren't matching the consumer's expectation?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that, but I think they're focusing on the 1,500 companies who are members of APCO. So if there's companies importing something and they're not a member of APCO, they should be, because legislation will cover them if they're more than $5 million turnover. So maybe drop them in.
No, look, as I said, it's just an interesting space, and it's just becoming very, very, very. Well, it's growing. So thanks for that.
Now, one of the things we didn't do at the start of this meeting before everybody leaves, Nina, is that we recorded it, and we should have said at the start we're recording this message. So what I'm just being transparent here. If people don't want this to be shared anywhere, I'm sorry, I should have said at the start, but this was just to sort of encapsulate the discussion so we could share it amongst our own network rather than going public with it. So let's just let people know.
No problem.
Yeah. Does anybody have a problem with this being put on our international waste platform YouTube? Then please let us know. So there are some people joining who weren't registered via the Eventbrite, so I don't have everybody's email address. I see. Yeah, sorry, my sound. Yeah, I'm back. So I will send an email to everybody who was registered via Eventbrite, and then they could possibly forward it to the people they gave the link to Zoom. And then we could follow up, continue the discussion in email. And then if somebody wants to leave that email discussion, they can let us know. Because I think it's so important to form a platform about this, because Karen has been working on it, you've been working on it, and there are so many different people working on it and not connected in one place. Okay.
Well, thanks very much for the opportunity to be involved, Nina, and for all those people who joined us today for the discussion. Look
and I will
face to face at some point.
Yeah, and just to add, so we do another. Oh, something dropping. We will do another tech talk, pre-recorded, with Mitch in America about the standardization of bin labels, because this is also chaotic across the globe and confusing consumers. And then we will also record a tech talk followed by a Zoom discussion about reuse and refilling with Claire from Rayat in Scotland. But so we will send those links out later.
Please do.
Okay.
I'd love to be on that one.
Yeah, okay. So thanks for all the input, and we'll share the recording link also in the email.